I've chosen like the most Jacob route ever.
Hello to all. I'm here today on the internet to talk about my telemark binding. So my idea here is to make a very, very simple binding. There are very few mechanisms. The main mechanism is the spring box, the pivoting toe bail, very complicated mechanism, this pivot, and then the toe piece, which I don't intend on fabricating at all. Mistakes that have been made, and those will be accounted for, and I'll make sure to repair and arrange for those to not be mistakes anymore. So first off, the main question, I think, and it's also a good question, is how does the preload happen in the spring box, and how do I get enough spring tension? The idea is that the binding has a ramp at the back here and on the spring box as well, and as you step down, the binding pushes the spring box back far enough for it to create the right distance between the back of the duck butt here on the NTN boot and basically the dynafit tech toe inserts. The binding actually helps compress the bellows, and it leads you into your telemark turn, even though you are putting force into that to be able to compress those springs. The spring pivot is very far back, so that at the end of the race of the carriage here, the spring box is at quite an acute angle, and it doesn't follow the pivot point of the boot. So you're kind of pulling up on the spring more than extending this way with the length of the boot. Step in and the bail mechanism. I mean, you've seen it in this little demo I just did. It's pretty simple, but I think one question people had was, how do you keep this part from kind of flailing around? And one thing I did design into this, and it sort of faded away since this is a plastic part that should be a metal part ideally, but I made these little nubs. You can't see them, they're little hemispheres. They're about a millimeter in diameter, and they kind of block, or they act as a spring, and they block the bail from actually popping up. And if you set it up like this, they also block the bail from being pushed down when you put the boot in. But if you push it down enough, then that allows for touring mode without any complex mechanisms. It's just a thing that pivots. I do think that the binding should have a little clampy thing down here, so it might be a little hook that you can just pivot forward, or it might even be like a piece of Velcro or a clip with a paracord. But I think a little hook with a lobe on it that will kind of clip in, like a lot of these clips are made. I think that would be pretty clean and would allow for a kind of clank-free uphill. And then one of the other questions I had, a few people asked me how many screws there are on this thing, and it's just 4 at the back that hold this into place. And then there are 4 for the dynafit toe piece. Toe piece choice. I mean, I just use these because these are what I had on hand. I like them. They're very sturdy. They're a dynafit ST, but I could use a plume toe piece or an ATK toe piece, or whichever toe piece has the better springs or the better movement, but I've been satisfied with this from prototyping. I think that's all the questions, and I will do one last little demo. And thanks for watching and being interested in this, product development of a product of for a sport that's basically dead, which I think is pretty funny. So again, the bail back there, and then takes quite a bit of pressure. Generally, you would be able to apply more pressure with the front of your foot. And you can see it's taking quite a considerable amount of force to get that to bend. So I think this would be a pretty fun binding to ski like on the resort and not just for touring.